If you're tired of trading time for money and you're ready to take control of your life, it starts here. So over the next chapters, I'll show you how to, number one, build your own 168 vehicle. Number two, use an invincible business model to create systems of wealth. And then number three, how to leverage the partnership era to help you scale your impact. But first, you need to ask yourself, do you believe you can change? Because I believe you can. I believe you can take control of your time, your finances, and your future. And I believe the choice is just yours. And now it's time for you to make a decision.
This is Secrets for Success.
Welcome to the Secrets for Success podcast. I'm your host, Greg Todd. Thank you, as always, my friends, for joining me. Today's podcast, I don't want it to be a secret for success, but I can tell you this. This really is what you do to become successful, at least when it comes to generating income and impact. And that is understanding that the key to asset building is figuring out what type of assets your clients want. What result do they want? But then how do they want that result? Okay. And so I'm actually doing that in real time right now with you all. And so I want to share with you what I'm doing. And I want you guys not just to listen to, okay, hey, this is what I'm doing. Okay, great for you, Greg. I want you to figure out how can you do this for yourself. Okay, so let me bring you through what is happening right now. All right, so I just finished a 5-day event last week. It's called the Invincible Challenge, and it was awesome. It was 5 days of me teaching people, okay, these are the 5 different business models that I am currently operating in and currently using to be able to generate the income that I want, the impact that I want, and most of it is in consulting, right? I mean, not all of it's in consulting, but I use the info business model. I use affiliate business models. I use the newsletter business model. I use memberships. I use agency. I use software, and I teach people SBOs. Okay, so SBOs are solution-based offers because I feel like that's the only way you can add those other business models into clinical care. So that's what I did last week. Okay, we had a really good challenge. We had I think 580 people sign up for the challenge. Probably had anywhere between 100 and 125 people that would come in at some point in a live training, which is about around 20%-ish, which is really, really good. Okay, but I also understand this. I know that all these people that signed up all want to stop trading time for money. But I also know that the way that I delivered it in a 5-day live event works for about 20% of people, maybe 15, 20% of people. And then the rest of them, they can't do it. You want to know why? Because even though they want to listen, they want to sign up, they are trading time for money. So they can't always be there. They have other responsibility, obligations, got to make money. Okay, so I'm saying that because as amazing as last week is, right? We had people sign up for our programs, this, that, all these awesome things. I know this. I know that not everybody that signed up showed up. And I know that there's many different ways. Okay, well, not many, but there's 3 different ways that people consume information. Most of us are selling information. Many of you are selling your information, but you're selling your information by physically being in front of someone in a treatment room. Okay? I'm selling my information, not being physically in front of somebody in a treatment room. I'm selling my information and giving people value, whether it's free or paid, and I'm doing it in different mediums. Okay, so it is important to create whatever value you have and see what medium is going to work best for your clients. So let's talk about that real quick. Okay, there is video, there's audio, and there's written. Right now, you all are consuming this via audio. This is a Secrets for Success podcast. Chances are you're listening to this while you're walking. Chances are you're listening to this while you're driving your car. You might be on the toilet right now. You might be listening to this just hanging around the house and you have your headphones in. Maybe the kids are there too. Hi kids, it's Uncle GT. Okay. Either way, you're listening to the podcast because you have decided that you like to consume via audio. My challenge that I did last week was primarily consuming via video. It was a video-based challenge. if you weren't watching what I was doing on the board, if you weren't there when I was putting up my slides and different examples of things that I'm trying to convey, you weren't going to get the full value of it. But I know that there are a good chunk of people that want it via video. So there's video, there's audio, like what you all are experiencing right now, and then there's written. So challenge is over. We had an amazing challenge, okay? We had lots of people sign up. We had a good chunk of people come, and we had the amount of people that we thought would go into our programs. It basically just happened this morning. Okay, great. But what are ways that I can take what I've already done and now understand that everybody wants the information, but not everybody consumed it in the way that I was willing to deliver it? So what can I do? So let me tell you what I'm doing. Number one, I took everything that I did in the challenge. What we did is we took all 5 days, and we took those 5 days, and we've done this challenge before. So I kind of had it already, but you guys can do this as well. If you did a workshop for a client, you did a workshop for patients, you've done anything, take that thing and ask yourself, how can I clone this to put it into other 2 mediums that I am not helping people with in the way that I'm doing it right now? So in my case, I was giving people information via a video medium. How can I do this via audio? I'm going to show you here in a second. And how can I do it via written? So let me talk about the written first. Here's what I did. All right, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is my iPad. And on the iPad, you can see I have a 42-page book now. So this 42-page book is the Invincible Blueprint. And the Invincible Blueprint is basically me taking each of the days, not me, but my team, taking each of the days. And it took each of the days that I spoke, and we basically used AI to be able to create chapters for us of each day. Okay, that's what we did. All right, and so it turned it into, I tell the AI and prompt the AI to turn this into a book. Right now, I'm going to read the first chapter at the end of the podcast. I'm going to read the first chapter. You're going to see that this sounds like a really, really good book. Okay, so you don't just put that into GPT or whatnot. You have to put the right instructions for it, but it can make it sound really, really, really good. Okay, and it doesn't sound like how I sound when I'm teaching a live event, like what I did last week. Okay, written is a way that people like to consume. Some people, they want to be able to sit down and read a book, and I'm one of those people. At 6:30 to 7 o'clock in the morning, I like to sit down, total silence, and just read. I love it, and I do that for about 20 to 35 minutes a day. So some people like that. There are a lot of people that want to listen to audiobooks, okay? So they want to listen to audio. And so here's what I'm going to do right now, okay? As soon as this podcast is over, I'm actually going to do the first chapter with you guys here, okay? As soon as the podcast is done, I'm going to read this and turn it into an audiobook, okay? Now, I have 2 choices, okay? There's a platform called HeyGen. I've tried it and messed around with it before, and to be honest with you, right before this, I started doing this and I was messing up on the first, chapter, and you're gonna mess up a little bit. But I was like, and Brittany was even saying, hey, maybe you should just do this via AI so we can just have this thing done right. But I was like, you know what? I think I'm actually going to just read it because I want people to see that I can mess up and the point is still gonna come across. And as I'm reading, I'm kind of like adding my little ad libs in there. And I think that kind of makes my brand a bit, So that's what I'm going to do. So anyways, the whole idea of today's podcast is for you to understand this, okay? And then I'm going to give you a little offer here in a second. Is for you to understand that just because your clients and your potential audience want something, that does not mean they're going to buy. A huge reason why they buy is, are you giving it to them in the way that they want it, okay? So just because I talked to people about the 5 business models last week, there are people that will never, ever, ever listen to it because I didn't give it to them. I didn't give them the information the way that they wanted it. So maybe they want it via audiobook. Maybe they want it via a book. Maybe they want it via replays. Maybe they wanted it the way it was last week, but they want it on their time. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. What I'm doing is let's make it invinciblechallenge.com, okay, /replay. And what I'm going to do is if you go to invinciblechallenge.com/replay, you can get access for, I don't even know what the price is going to be yet, but it's going to be somewhere under $100, okay? You can get access to all the replays of last week. I'm going to give you access to this audiobook that I'm going to have done in the next 24 hours. I'm going to give you access to the actual book itself, okay? And the book is called The Invincible Blueprint, all right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read you a portion of chapter 1, all right? I'm going to record this now. So team, as you're listening to this, just make sure that you can keep this in the podcast, but I'm not going to do this again, all right? So let's go ahead and use this as chapter 1. All right, here we go. By the way, thank you guys. Much love to you all. And let me start reading. Okay, so chapter 1, Breaking Free, the truth about time, wealth, and the path to being invincible. So here's how it all started. I'm the anti-entrepreneur. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. In fact, I fought against it for years. Growing up, I saw what business did to my family. My dad, who's an immigrant to this country, we're from Jamaica, he started his business here in the States in 1984. Now, at first, he crushed it. He actually became the first person in the Todd family to make 6 figures in a single year. Back then, 6 figures was a really big deal, especially to someone who wasn't even born in America. But just a few years later, everything fell apart. By 1988, my father's business crumbled, and I watched as the stress of failure took its toll on his finances, his health, and his marriage. And for years, I associated business with pure pain. I believed being an entrepreneur was a recipe for destruction, and I told myself I'd never make the same mistake. So here's what I did. What I did is I played it safe. I decided to pursue the career that I believed seemed the most stable, recession-proof, and predictable. And that was physical therapy. And I learned that through reading these magazines. Okay, now let me be real with you. My decision wasn't based on some deep passion for helping people. Yeah, I like the idea of being useful, but if I'm being completely honest with you, I wanted security. I wanted a job where I wouldn't have to sell anything. I wanted stability. Now, I almost chose pharmacy instead of physical therapy because of my stuttering problem. I figured as a pharmacist, I could sit behind a counter, I could quietly dispense pills, and no one would ever hear me struggle to speak because I used to struggle to speak a lot. But life has a funny way of flipping your plans upside down. Fast forward to today, and here I am. The guy who once feared speaking, I'm now sharing my story with thousands of people. Now, by 2004, I was working what I thought was my dream job. I was seeing patients every day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I'd built a reputation for myself, and at that time, I was even working with professional tennis players after hours. Yes, from 8 p.m. to sometimes midnight, I'd be working with these players. From the outside, it looked like I had it all together. But behind the scenes, here I was, basically in the same situation as my dad. I was miserable, I was exhausted, and my marriage was hanging on by a thread. Now, my wife, pregnant with our second child, she was done. She didn't care how hard I was working or how much money I was bringing in. She wanted the one thing that I couldn't give her at the time, which happened to be my time. So I remember it was one Saturday, we had this massive blow up, and I can still remember the tension, the shouting, and the look on her face. And that was the moment I realized I was on the verge of losing everything that mattered to me. So I made a big decision. That Monday, I walked into my boss's office and I begged him for a chance to work 4 12-hour shifts per week. And here was my rationale. If I could work 4 12-hour shifts, that means that I could have 1 day extra per week. And that day I could focus on saving my marriage, being present with my wife and with the kids. Between me and a part-time therapist that was working 10 to 12 hours per week, we were seeing 27 patients a day at the clinic, far more than that clinic expected. So I thought I'd earned the right to ask. Well, guess what? My boss's response was nope. And that was the day everything changed. I actually quit my job the next day with nothing lined up. I had no backup plan. I had no safety net. I just had a burning need to take back control of my life. So here's what I did next. I took out a $180,000 equity line on my house and I started my first business. At the time, it was the scariest decision of my life. Now today, that one decision turned into over $30 million in revenue across my clinics. And it's also spawned to so many other businesses because of that. Now, here's the 3 lies that I believe is keeping you stuck. Looking back, I can see now that so many of us are held back by lies we've been taught since childhood. So here are the big ones. Lie number 1, more experience equals more money. We're told that if we pay our dues, our value is just going to go up. But here's the truth. Experience alone doesn't increase your worth. Skills that solve problems increase your worth. Here's lie number 2. Working harder equals more success. Hard work does matter, but grinding yourself into the ground isn't always the answer. I was working 80 plus hours a week and I still felt broke. I felt broke financially, emotionally, and mentally. Here's lie number 3. The middle class equals security. The middle class used to represent the American dream. And honestly, that's what I was going for. A house, a stable job, 2 kids, a dog named Sparky. And I thought I could achieve the American dream through being middle class and being a physical therapist. But today, I believe the middle class is a new poor. Inflation is rising at 7 to 10% per year. Yet most people haven't gotten a 10% raise in years. And if you're not increasing your income at the same rate as inflation, you're falling behind. So I believe you need to play the time game. And that, I believe, is a secret to real wealth. The turning point in my life came when I realized this one truth. Wealth is not just about how much money you make. It's about how much time it takes you to make it. So let's break it down. If you are making $1 million over a 40-year span, that's just $25,000 a year. But if you make $1 million in 1 year, now we're talking. You're making $1 million a year. So what's the difference between the two? It's just time. Most people, I believe, they're stuck. And they're stuck because they're in the wrong vehicle. Most people are in a 40 vehicle. And that means they trade 40 of their physical hours a week minimum for a paycheck. Wealthy people, on the other hand, they operate using assets. And all assets are 168 vehicles. A 168 vehicle works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, hence 168 hours in a week. So here's the math. To make $100,000 a year in a 168 vehicle, you need to make $11 an hour. If you want to make 10 times that, which is $1 million a year, you need to make just over $100 an hour. While I was sick in the hospital a few years back, my 168 vehicle still generated $19,000 in 2 days while I was hospitalized with COVID symptoms and I was a hot mess express. I didn't have to trade time for money because I had built systems that worked without me. And that is the power of a 168 vehicle. You know who else had 168 vehicles? King Solomon. And that's the model that I try to follow. King Solomon, who was one of the wealthiest people in history, he built his fortune on wisdom and recurring revenue, aka 168 vehicles. What's wisdom? Wisdom is when you are gaining your wealth from seeing opportunities where other people see problems. And recurring revenue is where you're getting paid to create systems that bring in wealth year after year after year. That's what King Solomon did. He didn't just get paid once, he created systems that brought in the wealth year after year. So what's a lesson you can learn from this? You can turn your knowledge, your experience, and even your failures into assets that pay you repeatedly. So here's your first step to becoming invincible. If you're tired of trading time for money and you're ready to take control of your life, it starts here. So over the next chapters, I'll show you how to, number 1, build your own 168 vehicle. Number 2, use an invincible business model to create systems of wealth. And then number 3, how to leverage the partnership era to help you scale your impact. But first, you need to ask yourself, do you believe you can change? Because I believe you can. I believe you can take control of your time, your finances, and your future. And I believe the choice is just yours. And now it's time for you to make a decision. So are you going to decide to become invincible? If so, let's keep on reading. There you go, you guys. So I just did chapter 1, right? And cool. I now have the first part of an audiobook. I'm going to go ahead and think that's what we're 8 pages in. I got 40 something pages more to go. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to keep on. I'm actually going to do chapter 1 in a nutshell here first. And then after that, I'm just going to go to chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. Guess what? I'm doing this one time. This will probably take me about 2 hours to do. But then I'll have it forever. For every single challenge, anyone that doesn't show up now, I can give them the audiobook. I can give them the I can give them the ebook. I could turn this into a physical book. I now have just created more assets that will work for me over and over and over again. That's how you do it. So anyways, if you guys want that, I'm just gonna bundle it together because I don't know which one people want. So I believe each one is worth the price that I'm gonna charge. I'm just gonna give all of them. So if you weren't able to come to the challenge last week, you can get the challenge. Go to invinciblechallenge.com/replay or go to invinciblechallenge.com. Just go to one of those and you can get it. Go ahead and buy it. You'll get the ebook version of it. You'll get the audiobook version. You'll get the replays. You'll get everything. And I know this will change your life because I saw what everybody was saying last week of how life-changing this was, even for people that have been to the challenge before. So anyways, hope you enjoyed today's episode. Till next time.